What's up YouTube, HoneyBee here, and this video is going to be about how I got my gamer name and maybe how some steps that you could take if you're thinking about making a gamer name yourself and competing in tournaments and stuff like that. Before I start, actually, this is actually something that was somewhat requested. I've seen it on a few YouTube comments. People would ask me how I came up with HoneyBee. I would be asked by some of my patrons as well. They've been asking how that really came to be, because HoneyBee is not exactly the type of name to strike fear in your opponent. You know, it's like I don't think it's a very scary name. Basically, how this all started, before I was HoneyBee, on like PS3 or whatever, my gamer tag that I had for that was just my last name, Commander 14. That was just the name, right? And I remember before going to a tournament with my brother, we were talking about it. We were like, so what's your gamer name gonna be, like, whatever? And I was thinking about, like, should we just use our PS3 names or whatever, because that's what a lot of people do. They'll use their PS3 names, but I kind of didn't want to do that, even though my last name, I think it's awesome. Commander is an awesome last name, but the thing is, it's spelled E-U-R at the end. It's supposed to be pronounced Commander, and I didn't really want people to always mispronounce the name. I didn't want to change it so it's spelled like Commander, because that's not my last name. And I was just kind of thinking, like, for one thing, I didn't really care that much. Like, I didn't think I was gonna be going to so many tournaments and become like a pro gamer and all this crap when I first started competing in tournaments. So I remember my very first tournament that I went to, like at a local downtown Toronto, was I just signed up as Commander, because I'm just like, I don't have anything better. I'm just gonna go as Commander. And I think my brother went as MC Biohazard, because his first name is Matt, last name Commander. So it's like MC Biohazard. And then he decided to drop the MC after and just stick with Biohazard. For those of you that don't know, his name's Biohazard because it's the Japanese name for Resident Evil, which is like one of his favorite game franchises and whatever of all time. And so we went to the first tournament. I went as Commander, and we got back, and after that first tournament, we actually got bodied, both of us, and the people there were like super nice, especially the tournament organizer. Shout outs to Neil Russell. He was really welcoming and like encouraged us to keep coming out and whatever and get better. And I was just like with my brother, and we're just like, do I still want to be Commander? Like, I don't think so. I think I want to be something different, but I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't have any idea what other name I could think of. We were thinking about like how different people like have different names, and like how do they come up with those names and whatever. And I remember thinking like, Yipes, like how did Yipes come up with Yipes? I don't know. How did like anyone come up with their name? And we were just like randomly watching YouTube videos, and I stumbled upon this one video. It's called Hornets from Hell. And you know what? Let's watch it. Let's watch it. I have it here. I haven't watched this video in years, so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch it. So let's take a look. So the way I got my name is essentially from a YouTube video. The video is called Hornets from Hell. I'll put a link in the description below for you to see the full video. I can't really put this here for copyright purposes, but essentially the video is this. It's about Japanese honeybees, where a hornet goes into the hive of honeybees, and it goes there to put its pheromones in the hive so that the other hornets can come later on to basically invade the hive and stuff like that. And what's really cool about this video is the honeybees actually let the hornet come into the hive, and they all swarm it at one time. Now, they're not swarming it and stinging it, they're actually swarming it and vibrating their body temperature around it to 117 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 2 degrees above what the Hornet can withstand. The Hornet can withstand 115 degrees, whereas the honeybees can withstand 118 degrees. So they're vibrating their bodies to 117 degrees Celsius so they can essentially roast the Hornet alive. So that video right there is why I became a honeybee. That shit's crazy. I remember seeing that. So I was with my brother watching that. I'm just like, yo, I'm gonna be honeybee. Like, that's awesome. I'm gonna be honeybee. Those honeybees are awesome. Or whatever. But it was kind of like a joke. We were kind of just thinking like, yeah, like, I'm not gonna like continue going to tournaments. I'm not really gonna like whatever. I'm just gonna be honeybee because it's funny. Like, it's cool, and it's just gonna be something to laugh about, right? So that's essentially why I actually chose the name Honeybee. And then I remember going to my next tournament after that, and Russell was like, so what's your gamer tag you're signing up as? I'm like, Honeybee. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be Honeybee. And Winter Wars, I remember he was like reading out like names and whatever, like who has to fight who next. And he's like Rebello versus Honeybee, who the hell's that, or whatever. I'm like, yo, that's me. And he's like, why don't you get a better name? Why not Killer Bee or something? And I'm like, I just want to be Honeybee. So, and then the thing is like, I actually took like this kind of stupid name, to be honest. Like, if you just hear like someone's Honeybee, it's like, yeah, it's not threatening or whatever. But I actually took this name Honeybee and actually made it threatening because people actually like know who I am and shit now. So I always thought that was pretty cool. I always thought it's pretty interesting how different people in the FGC can come up with their names that they decide to have. There's a lot of names out there. I'm not gonna put anyone on blast right now, but there are some names out there from people, not just from NRS games, from different games, where it's like, how do you come up with that? Like, on the surface, like, that name's pretty stupid if you think about it, but people just have it and they just own it and whatever, and then it just becomes your name, right? Like Honeybee. Like, first time people hear that is probably like, what the hell's that? And then you just kind of rock it and whatever. So for me, like, that's kind of how that happened for me. I know, like, some people will be out there and they're just thinking, like, how do I come up with a gamer name? How do I get a name that's cool or whatever like that? And I think one thing is just making sure that you don't have a name that's like someone else's name already that's like well established in the scene. For example, I know sometimes people in different scenes will actually have the same name. Like, I know Scar. There's a Scar from our NRS games, but there's also a Scar, I believe, that commentates like Smash Bros. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there was someone that's also named Scar that does that. So it is possible for different scenes and stuff to have the same name, but for the most part, if you're involved in like the NRS scene, you want to have a name that's not going to be confused with everyone else from the NRS scene. Like, I know I was really confused before how there's actually two newbies. There's the newbie from Florida, whose name is spelled Noobe, and he was a Doomsday player back in Injustice 1, and he played Kano in MKX, and then Cheetah in Injustice 2, but he actually hasn't really been competing. I'm not sure what happened with him. But then there's another newbie from Buffalo, and his name is spelled like Neuby, I think. And so like there's two newbies, which I always found a little bit weird. And then I'm like, wait, how do you spell that? Is that the same thing? Because I remember like going to a tournament before in Toronto and hearing like, oh yeah, Newbie's is gonna be here. I'm like, Newbie's gonna be here, the Doomsday player, and then it ends up being someone completely different from Buffalo. And I was like, oh, okay, this is someone else. But so definitely like something to do with something that's not copying someone else is usually the best thing to do. I think Illusions has a really cool name in the fact that it's spelled like I and then capital L-U-U and then Illusions. because he has the LUU in there because of his last name, and I just think that's super cool to have that in your name. It's really interesting how some people come up with their stuff, but yeah, you want to have something that's different. Honestly, it doesn't have to be something cool like like Ninja Slayer, whatever, or something like that. Like it can be really anything you want, and you just kind of have to own it. Like there's people in my Patreon, like shout outs to Thunder Fury, shout outs to Logs, Uncut Robin, Giggity. There's like a lot of people that I don't know how they come up with their names, but it's cool. Like it's cool how people they have these different names that you can just come up with, and and usually someone will have some kind of explanation behind it. Probably not as in depth as the one I just gave you for how I came up with HoneyBee, but yeah, that's essentially it. So thanks so much for watching this video. Later. What's up, YouTube? My name's HoneyBee, and thank you so much for checking out the latest video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you can do so by clicking the link in the Christmas tree, or if you want to do some 1v1 sets with myself and support me through Patreon, there is a link for that in the Injustice poster. There are extra videos for you to enjoy right here. Thank you so much. See you next time.